Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Thursday, November 3rd committee meeting of the whole administration meeting to order at 6:03 PM. We'll start with roll call. Johnson here, Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Brent Mueller. Ryan Curry.
Here.
Tom Wahlberg.
Here.
Lisa Patterson.
Here.
Bill Robertson.
Here.
Sherry Bartelt.
Here.
Rodney Riley.
Here.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Here.
I have no minutes. Next, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wiltsey, second by Mr. Larson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a few here for public comment. Just a reminder, we'll keep public comment to 3 minutes. I'll have them in the order that they presented. First up, I have Richard Wolf. Let the record state that Mr. Mueller joined the meeting at 6:04 PM. As a reminder, if I'd like to ask everybody to please state your name and address for the record so that could be recorded. Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Chairman. Richard Wolf, 9698 Spring Road. I'm before you tonight because I want to voice my concerns about concerts that have started back up in Boone County. They do masquerade as a rodeo animal show. The noise is so loud from these. I live 1.2 miles from 5042 Shattuck Road, where they had a rodeo concert on October 22nd. Between me is Coon Creek, a woods, a home, and 40 acres of corn. The farmer was picking his corn that evening when I got home, about 10 after 6, and I could hear the music from Shattuck Road over the combine. It was between us. Concerts are supposed to be on A3 zoning, not A1. And I think that this kind of worked their way into just saying they're playing the music for the animals, but they're charging admission for people to come in. So it's a concert to me. And I have to listen to that music along with many others in this audience that live right next to them or even miles away. Even in Garden Prairie, you can hear the music from Spring Road, maybe even Shattuck Road. I would like this to be investigated and checked up on. If it happens on weekends, have someone that is working to go check to see what's going on. If the people in the zoning department or building department aren't working that day, then maybe someone should. I've filed complaints, written complaints, verbal complaints, and to the police non-emergency number. So I would like to see something done about it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Darrell McGinnis.
Hi, good evening. 10 of Darrell McGinnis, 10861 Spring Road, Garden Prairie. Which one am I supposed to be looking at? Doesn't matter. No.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
I just feel like it's in my eye. So talking about the animal shows, any of you had said, let's just see how the new ordinance goes this summer. Let's just see how the new ordinance plans for these animal shows. Let's see what works. Let's see what doesn't work. Let's see what happens, what doesn't happen. Some of us here, some of us can see some good that has come from the changes of the ordinances. We still seem to have a process that is not working. From the finger pointing to who's responsible for what, to who's checking on what on the applications, to when is the application approved? Is it a day or two before the event? Don't think that's supposed to be happening. to taking payment for the application, taking payment when the application is processed or approved. Still have problems with that. But we all have witnessed in one way or another is the lack of accountability and how the county is going to enforce the rules. So when we look at this next year, I want to make sure that we're looking at accountability, who's responsible for what, so there's not the finger pointing. And if the rules are broken, if the ordinances are broken, what are the consequences? That something else that has come up is the officers don't even know what to do if they are broken. There's nothing written of, if the ordinance is broken, what is the consequence? I still to this day have gotten nothing. There was about 9 animal shows this summer. Sadly to say, 2 to 3 only did not have a serious injury to an animal. Serious injury meaning a horn broken from a skull where it was cracked, legs broken where they were sticking out sideways, and I'm sure you've all seen the broken back. Out of that, those animals sat all day long without veterinary care while the show continued. The animal show continued. So I'm hoping that in 2023, we can look at this and make some changes for all aspects of what has not gone correctly through this process. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, I have Terry Rossi.
Hello, I'm Terry Rossi, 5053 Shattuck Road, Belvedere. I'm here to talk about the last rodeo that occurred across the street from my home. I want to pose to the board the hypothetical situation that you have a neighbor across the street from you, and 4 times a year they get together in the good months of the year, good weather months, and they invite hundreds of people who bring animals, and the animals are routinely brutalized. And usually 1 or 2 die. They have to be down. I can't let that occur anymore. And I also noticed that many times the board will pray before they have a meeting. And I want to ask you if your God is okay with people doing that to animals. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Steve Hindy.
My name is Steve Hindy. I live at 43W799 Oakley Drive, Elburn, Illinois. Boone County Ordinance 22-18, Section 4.2.3 requires that rodeos must follow state laws. Shark has extensive video documentation proving that this has not happened. The ordinance also requires that the rodeos comply with regulations accepted by 3 rodeo associations, including the Mexican Federation of Charreria. Rodeo supporters are charging racism to try to cover up their abuse of animals. Rodeo supporters claim that people from the humane community are disrespecting their culture. Let's take a look at that culture through the official source, the Mexican Federation of Charreria, and remember that compliance with its rules are a permit requirement. Front page. This charro arena has a California licensed veterinarian. Obviously, in this case, it would be an Illinois licensed vet. The important thing is that we have never, ever seen a veterinarian at any charreria in Boone County. Number 4, this charro arena is equipped with an animal conveyance available at all times for the immediate and humane removal of any sick or injured animal. Just as we've never seen a veterinarian at one of those events, we've never seen a conveyance that includes the most recent rodeo when a steer paralyzed from a spine injury was dragged from the arena by its horns. Number 5, It is prohibited the use of electronic prods or other artificial stimuli devices on any animal once the animal is in the holding chute, unless necessary to protect charros or chariota spectators, or when the animal is stalled in the chute. Our video documentation shows electric prods are used constantly at Boone County's rodeos. 6, it is prohibited that the use of any animal that is or appears to be sick, injured, old, neglected, physically or visually impaired, malnourished, lame, underweight, sore, or infested with lice or mites. In fact, the animals with obvious injuries have been reused over and over and over. Number 7, all charro spurs must be dull. It is prohibited the use of sharpened spurs, locked rowels, or rowels that lock. Our video documentation, again, proves that sharp, painful spurs are used at these events. Page 3, livestock unloading. Stock must arrive at least 24 hours prior to the start of any chariota. Non-compliance with this rule will be sufficient for the organizing committee and or judges to suspend the chariota. That's not happening. The animals arrive on the morning of the event. Page 4, accidentally injured animals. This rule requires a conveyance, which I've already stated is not there. The rule goes on to state, the removal shall be conducted humanely with utmost care and immediately. No charro event shall be carried on until the animal is placed safely in an isolated and comfortable area where the on-call veterinarian, who is expected to arrive within 1 hour or less, takes full charge. There is, in fact, no pause at these events for injured animals unless the victim is literally blocking the competition area. There is no conveyance, there's no isolated area for the injured, and there's no veterinarian. Page 5, intentional abuse of animals. The Mexican Federation of Chariota condemns animal cruelty and sanctions any charro who abuses animals intentionally or uses unnecessary roughness before, during, or after a chariota on any part of the charro arena grounds. No exceptions allowed. The rule goes on to lay out specific and very significant financial penalties, expulsion from competition, and even shaming through public announcements.
Mr. Hendy, your time is up.
Okay.
If you can wrap it up, I'll give you a last word.
What would the Federation have to say about Boone County's rodeo participants beating their own horses?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Janet Enoch.
Good evening. My name is Janet Enoch. I'm at 43W799 Oak Leaf Drive, Elburn, Illinois. In conclusion, the only people here who are disrespecting Mexican culture are the people involved in these rodeos. They show contempt for the culture they claim to be honoring. And then they and their minions accuse elders of disrespect and racism to cover their cruel and illegal behavior. Last spring, Shark gave its best advice to ad hoc committee members who created the new ordinance. Our advice was disregarded in favor of promises that the rodeo would self-police. The final nail in the coffin is that the zoning people charged with enforcement chose to ignore everything, and this board allowed it. The damage to Boone County's image is a completely self-inflicted wound. If the board wants to resolve this situation and start to rebuild Boone County's standing in the state, I urge you to look at the facts and deal with reality, or you'll be duped again. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have. Mr. Curry, meeting is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with monthly presentations and Boone County Sheriff, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We'll write down the list. Our calls for of interest in October Unfortunately, we had a fatality out on Cherry Valley Road and Rosetta Road. We've had multiple vehicle burglaries in a lot of the different areas of the county. Typically, we see these vehicles. They're picked up by other jurisdictions that have plate readers. A lot of them jump right on I-90 and off to the city they go. Typically, not only the vehicle burglaries, but also stolen vehicles. So we can't encourage the public enough, and we say this because we know these are being recorded. Do not leave valuable stuff in the car. Do not leave the keys in the car. That's starting to be a big problem. It comes in waves, they come and go. It's just something that we've kind of gotten used to dealing with. So we've been pretty quiet all summer, but the last month it's kind of picked up in some of those areas. We did have a pretty good burglary up at a business up in Capron. It looks like we're going to be able to make some arrests on that in the coming weeks. Overtime report, we continue to be over budget on patrol, dispatch, and corrections. Staffing levels, again, this is all about staffing levels. Currently, we're 2 deputies down. We have 1 in field training. We have 2 in training down at PTI, which Lieutenant Young and myself went down and visited yesterday. They are doing outstanding. 2 kids from Boone County that reside here for our next 2 deputies. Very, very intelligent, going to do a fantastic job for the sheriff's office. We have 2 on medical leave. So you can see we have people working almost for overtime every single day, both shifts. Dispatch, we thought we were all caught up. The girl we hired, as I talked to you about a couple months ago, we got one from Elgin. She lived out here. She actually loved it out here. She went back to Elgin. Unfortunately, it's all about the pay. We have a lot of union contracts coming up in the future. It's something we're definitely going to have to address, especially the lower level to begin with. All the way up, we have to be competitive with area jurisdictions. So we lost that one back to Elgin, and then we picked up another one from Elgin, who also lives in Belvedere. She's been around a lot longer. She has about 16 years experience. The drive it's just not worth it for her. So we're excited to have her. So with that new pickup, we're still down 1, and we have 2 in field training. In corrections, again, as we talked about, we're just not hiring anybody until we can figure out what the Safety Act's going to do to us next year. We want to maintain our staff, but we're not going to hire new. We're down about 4 guys for that. Just an update on the building maintenance projects. We've had a lot of projects going on this summer. I thank the board for, approving these expenditures in county administration. So we talk about it all the time. The buildings and the property are going to be here well after we're gone. We have to maintain them. I'm happy to report the courthouse no longer leaks. Well, kind of. I guess it kind of does over the state's attorney's office, but we're working on that. All the roofs have been completed now. Where we have the biggest problem is that lovely bell tower that we have on one of the 200-year-old buildings that continue to. It's been a problem for us. But other than that, the rest of the courthouse, all the roofs are completed. Replaced a bunch of sidewalks yesterday. We're installing some new light poles in front of the courthouse to make it safer there at night. Really looking forward to that. We completed all the ceilings of the parking lots and stairs that go to the lower lots. That's been a problem for us for years. Should be replaced in about 3 weeks. Moving along, I see on the agenda later on, you're going to be talking about a panic alarm system for the county admin. We are currently installing that at the courthouse with court security funds, so necessarily doesn't need approval of the board. We're going forward with that. And this is the type of system that judges and clerks and state's attorneys and anybody in the building, if there's an issue, they can push a button, and instead of going to a third party and we're paying, it's a one-time fee, comes right over our radios. So that way, both the city and county, whoever's closest, will respond to that location. It's 2022. This is just something we have to do. I would encourage you to vote for clearly, it's kind of a no-brainer, to be honest with you. It's very reasonable for this building too. It's shocking, but there's a lot of crazies out there. So it's something we want to definitely take care of our employees. The city has also picked up on that. And again, we share the cost. We're happy that the city, county, or the city administration is also going to be installing the same system. It only makes sense that everybody has the same system. I do want to give a shout out to Justin at County Highway. It's kind of rare, Justin. Nice job. Squaw Prairie and Poplar Grove. You have done absolutely crazy stuff at that intersection. They have worked so hard, and we talked about this for the last couple of years. Trees down, markings, signs everywhere. You'll get a headache with the amount of signs that are out there. I will say that the yellow red lights were installed a couple of weeks ago. I go there, we say half dozen times a day. It is working, but newsflash, we are going to have accidents there. It's only a matter of time. But right now, people are slowing down. We had our speed trailer out there for a couple of weeks. We've had units out there to be seen. It's an amazing thing. We have our speed trailer. We have cops sitting out there. People drive really good. Unfortunately, they're not there 24/7. So that's the problem we run into. But so far, knock on wood, we haven't had any accidents out there. So much of it is part of the traffic volume that we deal with in these intersections. You know, right down the street, you know, now they skip Squaw Prairie because it's a dangerous intersection, and they go through Marengo. We continue to have accidents at Marengo and Poplar Grove. It's like wherever you fix one spot, it pops up in a different location. So it's never ending. But I just really want to, I know that the highway department in the county has caught up with the heat for that intersection. It's not even our worst intersection in the county. It just gets the most noise. So they've done a nice job out there, and hopefully that will slow down the accidents. But time will tell with that. Briefly on the budget, really the sheriff's office, we have 6 budgets. All of them are basically maintenance budgets. There really was no increase to our budgets. If there were, it was, you know, expenditures, food went up, you know, stamps went up, gas went up, things like that. So there was really nothing out of the norm for our budget. It's a pretty maintenance budget. So clearly, you know, I would definitely take any questions for that budget. I will say, you know, I'm very, very pleased that the county has now gotten to a rhythm of replacing 4 cars a year. You know, we've had so many problems in this county over the last 30 years of, okay, we need 20 cars, and we try to come up with that money. If we can maintain these 4 cars a year, plus pull money out of, you know, the sheriff's different accounts that the sheriff has overseas, then we can maintain this fleet. I know it's a lot of money each year, but it's you know, you pay now or you pay later, and it's a whole lot easier if we get into that rhythm. So I definitely want to thank the board for that. With that, I know all of you, you know, you got the budget yesterday?
Tuesday.
Oh yeah, okay, 2 days ago. So I know you spent a lot of time studying it. So are there any questions that you have for the budget for me?
Any
Reference the sheriff's office or our 6 budget?
questions in the boardroom? Freddie Daly, Trinidad?
Yeah, I remember seeing the estimate for the 16 million for the public safety building. Is that just an estimate, or how did that number come about?
Well, that's a great question. That was an estimate about 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
So that'll kind of put a perspective on how much it really is. It's probably more about 60 million. No, not really. 16 million. It's probably, I would guess it probably 25 million plus.
Okay.
But you got to realize that wasn't for renovating the PSB. That was actually building a new building in front of it. So that's something really, like County Admin said, it's just keep that in the back of your mind. Eventually, I mean, the place is falling apart. We maintain it as best we can, but it is an old building. We explain all the time, we have, you know, sewer breaks, we have crap all over, we have in the walls, we have extension cords that they use for wires or you know, it's absolutely ridiculous. So it's just something to keep in mind, but it would be well over $60 million. Now, if they do just a renovation of that building, you know, that number may be a whole lot different. Just for the people that weren't here 20 years ago, that was for a huge building outside on that corner.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Tom?
I also saw in there about the 4 squads. Just thought that seemed like like a very affordable number. Does that include equipment in those cars, or is that fully done? It averages about 45,000 per squad.
That is fully stocked. Now, you know, the equipment that we have, a lot of times we can transfer equipment, you know, but like all good car salesmen, you know, things are always a little off. So you know, they always got to get a bigger cage or a smaller cage, but we have an excellent maintenance guy that you know does a lot of work with that. But the big expenses obviously are your computers in the car. We can switch them out. The radars in the car, we can switch them out. So that's where we transfer that over. And over the last couple of years, when we got away from the Impalas, we were able to transfer that stuff over. Eventually, we're going to have to, you know, to change that out. That's why we put more money in there. And there's a total, you know, if anybody wants it, we have a total complete breakdown of all the equipment in the squads and how much it costs. So whatever we need, you know, we pay for it. We try to recycle as much as we can. The Ford Explorers have been off the chart. Our maintenance has been much, much better with the Ford Explorers than the Impalas. And with the four-wheel drives, you know, we are a county agency. You know, our guys live in that car. They are great vehicles for police vehicles.
Any other questions for the sheriff?
Okay, lastly then, I will say that this will be my last county administration meeting. So I will, you know, if I speak, it may be lucky. It might be the last time you ever hear me speak. Retirement is November 30th. We are having a retirement ceremony, open house at the museum, Boone County Museum, from 2 to 4 with presentations at 3. There's 3 long-term employees retiring from the sheriff's office. All have been there 39 plus years. It's myself, Chief Deputy Perry Gay, and Lieutenant John Hare, who have been, he oversees our jail facility. So all longtime employees, but we are excited for the next chapter. Not the retirement excitement, but the next chapter for the sheriff's office. Spent a lot of time, and thank you to the board, of paying for that advanced, you know, education that I've talked about so often. You know, we always should look 5 years down the road and train the next generation to come up and take our places. And I believe we've done a really, really good job with that. I think our middle managers, I think our lieutenants, all these guys coming up, the young guys that we've hired, you know, in the last several years, we have a very, very, very good department. We're understaffed, but that's kind of been the history of our department. But I would tell you, we're going to be in very, very good hands in the future. And I'm excited. I believe they're going to take it to the next chapter. Next level. So other than that, if there's any questions on anything, we're good.
What time was that?
It's 2 to 4.
2 to 4.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you and your time with us. So
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Justin, we're not going to clap for you. Mike. Yours, Justin.
At the museum. At the museum.
What the sheriff was saying with Poplar Grove Road, I appreciate that. It's a team effort. We are trying to do what we can with low-cost countermeasures. Those are different things that are approved through the MUTCD, the manual on uniform traffic control devices, and that's a federal standard. So we apply as many to keep the accidents down. So we'll continue to do that. So with my board report, I've got that on board docs for everyone to view. I'm going to go through it really quickly. We do have one employee that is retiring. Jeff Rednauer is retiring this Friday. We do have his replacement that started on Monday this week. Juan Cortez, and like I said, he started on Monday. We do have an open position available right now that is for our winter snowplow driver. So if anybody knows of anybody interested in that position, please let us know as soon as possible. We've been it's difficult this year. Usually by now we had somebody, but we haven't had any takers yet. So. And then I do have the budget information on the bottom of the sheet, so we can jump into that. What I did was, so the highway department budget this coming fiscal year 2023 is about 6.7 million total. Expenses, revenues are fairly equivalent. what I did was I highlighted any new or unusual expenses and revenues. And so I also, on the bottom of the sheet, I broke out what percentage on some of the major items on both the revenue side and the expense side. So, for example, wages is 7%. And I've got all of the various items broken out. Just for those that haven't seen our highway department, that kind of puts things in perspective. A lot of our county departments have, most of their expenses and wages, where the county highway department, most of ours is in infrastructure, which would be expected. So again, this is the budget that's being proposed is about 6.7 million. And just for consideration, if you look, 48% is the Beaver Creek Bridge, which is 3.25 million. So, so that's a big chunk. And with anything that we do, those are big expenses, and that's why I've been harping on bridge replacement. We are playing catch up, and we're catching up pretty well with our bridges. We have a lot of bridge substructures that are timber substructures. In the 40s, 50s, and 60s, they basically drove telephone poles, more or less, but they're creosote timber into the ground, and that's what they built the bridges on. And so obviously over time, those degrade. Now we use steel. We drive steel into the ground, a steel cylinder or an H-pile. So those timber bridges with timber substructures, those we cannot retrofit, or we can't, it's the substructure under the bridge that, that's made out of timber. And we've got just under a dozen left. We've got 67 total bridges in the county for township and county. There's about 51, there's 51 township bridges. Yes, 51 township bridges and 16 county bridges. And, the good news with all this is we're chipping away, and we've got a lot of our major bridges funded or replaced. So one of the things with a lot of the federal funds, they are geared more towards higher volume roads as far as traffic volumes go. And those are typically the more expensive bridges. And just to put it in perspective too, bridge that we just did last fall, Denny Road over Gyrene Creek, just north of Orth Road. That is basically the smallest bridge that you're going to find on our system. It was a 22-foot span. In order to be a bridge, you have to have a 20-foot span minimum, according to federal requirements. So anything, you can have two 10-foot culverts, and that would be considered a structure. Two 10-foot culverts are next to each other. So anything that spans more than 20 feet, that's considered a bridge. So at the Denny Road Bridge at Gyrene Creek, that was a single span bridge, 22 feet. We replaced that with a triple box culvert last fall. That was basically the minimum price of a bridge that you can do, and that cost was $490-some thousand. So it's about, and prices are going up quite a bit, but it's a good rule of thumb that you're not going to be able to replace any of our bridges for less than $400,000. It's closer to $500,000. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the Poplar Grove Road over Beaver Creek, that is $3.2 million. So that just puts it into perspective. And we've got 67 of those bridges. We do, by statute, we do participate in township bridges. Our county bridge fund is a shared fund that is also used by townships to replace any bridges or any culvert work. So kind of that's my focus on a lot of things. The roads are obviously things that we do on a maintenance schedule. Bridges, though, those are significantly larger cost, and that's something that we were a little behind on our replacement schedule. Typically, a bridge that was built in that time period of needing replacement now that design life was 50 years. Now it's typically 75 years. Those design lives, we've expired quite a few of those. Tom, I do have the list of bridges that you asked for, and I forgot I was going to bring that tonight. I realize now I don't have it with me, but I do have a list of all of our bridges. Again, we've been knocking them out, and I've got a listing of all of the bridges in their condition. So a bridge has a rating 0 to 100. It's like your score in school, I guess. It's anything less than a 50, you can't rehab. We've got quite a few in the less than 50. The good news is when you're less than 50, you're more competitive on getting federal funds. Like I said, I've been pushing the bridge funding, and I am proposing a increase in our funding for the bridge fund. It's, as Dan mentioned last Tuesday during the layover, historically our bridge fund has decreased, and some of those the levies have gone over to when I say bridge fund, the bridge levy fund. The bridge fund levy has decreased, and that levy has gone over to the general fund, and we're hoping to kind of boost that back up, because not only does the county rely on that, but also the townships. So, and that's one thing that I will really stress is that just to maintain in that, if you think about it, at 67 bridges, average lifespan is 75 years, so you should be replacing one every year or so, roughly. And so we're replacing more than one a year, just because we got to do a little bit of catch up, and we're replacing some of the larger structures. So that's I guess that's my real quick talk on bridges, because that is my focus with funding. I'm available to any questions.
Any questions for Justin in the boardroom? Go ahead, David. We'll see.
So how many have we done so far, and how many we have in the short term to do, like say the next 5 years?
So in the next 5 years, we've next year we're doing a Poplar Grove Road Bridge. We've got funding for that, 80% funding. In 2025, I plan on doing 25, 26, I plan on doing the bridge bundle. So during that 2-year period, I plan on doing those 3 bridges, Denny, Mill, and Capron. Denny and Mill are township, Boone Township, and Capron is county. I'm working hard to get some federal funds for those two. We don't have funding established for those 3 bridges yet. We do have federal funds established for Woodstock Road Bridge, and that one, depending on how things go with the potential roadway improvements, if there's a realignment or anything like that may change the time frame. But that one has to get rebuilt, if you recall, by 27. I'm hoping to do that in 25 or 26 the year. So we've got, that's 5 bridges. And I've got Shattuck Road Bridge, needs to be done in the next 5 years in Spring Township. Edson Road Bridge in Poplar Grove Township, and North Boone School Road Bridge in, that's in, gosh, it's right on the line. I always get confused if that's Boone or Poplar Grove. But so those are the 5-year, those bridges I just listed off. Those would be within the next 5 years, the intent to replace.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Justin in the boardroom? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 7 quarterly department presentations, the state's attorney. Trish.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to give you a brief update on some items I mentioned last time at my quarterly report. First being implementing the e-discovery in my office. We continue to expand the e-discovery to private attorneys and more items being included in that. We are finding that we're having considerable problems with our system. We're using Dropbox to transfer those, particularly body-worn camera videos. We just had a case the other day that it took the sheriff's department records days to download into Dropbox. And then obviously it takes in my office hours to then download it, which obviously isn't real conducive for attorneys trying to do work and watching these videos in a timely fashion. So we are working with IT and the sheriff's department to continue to try and update that process, see what other software we could possibly use. And right now, only the Belvedere Police Department is using body-worn camera. It's only going to get worse when the sheriff's department also needs to start using that. I believe they start on January 1st of 2025. Hopefully we'll have the bugs worked out by then, but that's been a bit problematic. Secondly, I wanted to update, I discussed that we were waiting a verdict on a murder trial, and we did get a guilty verdict on that. And on September 27th of this year, the defendant's name is Juan Serra. He's 48. He was found guilty of the first-degree murder and sentenced to 50 years in the Department of Corrections, and he has to serve that at 100%. They're very pleased with that, obviously, and sentence. The other big issue going on is the Safety Act, which I know that we've talked about before. We've been meeting for the last several months, and we believe, as is currently written, we have protocols in place and forms to use if the law is not changed. There is a veto session that legislature is going into, and they just put out their dates. The last date they're going to meet is December 1st. So we'll know then if we're going to have any legislative changes. So we feel that since we've been meeting all this time, we have a good group together that will be able to make any changes necessary. In addition, I did file a lawsuit on behalf of my office and the Sheriff's Department to find the Safety Act unconstitutional. There were 58 counties that are part of that lawsuit. They just recently, this week, was possibly the end of last week, those lawsuits were joined, and they're all going to be heard in Kankakee County. There's going to be arguments on motions sometime this month. I believe it might be the week after Thanksgiving, but I don't have a specific date yet. I'll certainly keep the board updated on that. I guess two other things. One part of the Safety Act, it does address warrants. As you can imagine, if we no longer have cash bond, we have thousands of warrants in our system that have cash bond on them. So what were we going to do with that? So we realized this several months ago. So we decided to kind of look at what warrants we have. And it was determined, even if it wasn't for the Safety Act, it probably was a good time to go through those warrants because some of the people are deceased, officers are no longer available. For example, I found a minor drinking charge, and the person probably is in their 60s now, that had just never been arrested. So we're taking a look at those warrants and seeing what we can take out of the system, and then also addressing those cases that with the no cash bond that have to remain in place. And I guess finally, we're starting a project in my office regarding domestic violence. It's one of the most difficult cases that we deal with. It's very difficult in these situations when, I don't want to go into the whole psychology of domestic violence victims, but sometimes it's very difficult to leave a situation that you're in for various reasons, dependent financially, emotionally, things of that nature. So we're just going to meet with community partners and evaluate our current protocol that we use in my office and see if that needs to be updated. There's been numerous studies in the United States that have developed some protocols and look to see maybe where we can tweak ours to do the best job that we can. I mean, our goal is to make people's lives better in those situations, not worse. So that's a project that we're going to be embarking on as well. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Any questions for the state's attorney? Sherry Bartelt?
Yeah. Now that the Sheriff's Department and I believe that also Belvedere Police Department, you have a use of a special, I believe, officer, a lady officer that helps with domestic stuff, and Perillo also out of the Health Department. Is that helping any with anything that is going on?
Yes, it certainly is. So that's part of the core program, and it's extremely helpful because what each morning, Officer Wilga or Officer Scholl Schwartz, I'm sorry, she got married actually years ago, but we still refer to her sometimes as her maiden name. She comes in and pulls reports and looks to see, and this is in all types of cases, overdose cases, health issues, and identifies those people that need to go be checked on. And so a team of people, psychiatrists or psychologists, drug prevention, the officers go out and meet with people and try to follow up with them. And so it gives that person, an immediate response to what happened and try to connect them with services. So it has been very helpful to meet up with those domestic violence victims. But that's kind of the first step in the process. The process can sometimes take months. And so that's a very long time that case is pending. We try to get through them as quickly as possible, but there is just a certain amount of time that it's just always going to take in court. So we're trying to see what we can do to improve the long term versus, but it's a great start. The Corps is a great program to get out there right away and help those people.
Glad to hear it. Thank you, Trish.
Pretty Daily Trinidad.
I don't know if this falls under your purview or not, but do we have an emergency domestic shelter in place here in Boone County? Like when in case if somebody,
There is not one located in Boone County, but we do utilize the one in Winnebago County.
Okay. Yeah, maybe just this. I was just thinking because I know in Rochelle they have a really nice emergency shelter, and I think maybe going forward we can maybe think about something like that here.
That is a great point, and something that the community partners that are involved in CORE have definitely discussed, and we would like to see brought to fruition here in Boone County. But that's just one of the projects that we're thinking about.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the state's attorney?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving along to the public defender. How are you?
Right. All right, so the Public Defender's Office has had a very busy last quarter. We have been training our new attorney in traffic, DUI, and juvenile abuse and neglect court. Along with that, all of the attorneys in our office have switched around caseloads. So everybody is training and being trained at the same time on new types of cases. It has been a lot of work for our staff and a lot of changes to make, but I'm very thankful for their hard work and keeping us organized and on track in the office. In October, Ms. Tinsley, which is our new attorney, found out that she did pass the bar exam. She'll be sworn in on November 17th, and she'll be able to take over the traffic and the DUI call independently, and she'll continue training on the juvenile abuse neglect call. Over the last quarter, the internet and our case management access has been a little spotty in the building. Between Comcast and IT, we have had some upgrades in our internet and network access, so I'm hoping that we see some improvement with that. Also in the last couple of months, we've had a lot of continuing education opportunities. Both the Drug Court Conference and the Public Defender Conference were in October, and attorneys in our office attended both of those. In the coming months, we'll be attending training and doing some inter-office training to prepare for the Safety Act, which I know Tricia talked a little bit about, takes effect on January 1st. I am going to withhold some speculation on how those changes are going to affect our office. It's certainly going to present some challenges to our everyday practice and also our case assignments and caseloads. But we'll see what January 1 brings. We also have an open part-time scanning position that we'll be posting soon. It is 19 hours a week. It was previously just a scanning position with some assisting admin duties in the office, but I am considering adding some responsibility, which would include downloading and managing digital discovery. Since the state's attorney has gotten digital, all of our discovery now is coming digital, and it takes them a long time to get their videos downloaded. It then takes us a long time to get our videos downloaded. So I'm hoping that scanning position can help us there. So those are the major updates for our office, if anyone has any questions.
Any questions in the boardroom? I know 5G is supposed to be better, but I have the worst connection with it. So obviously everybody does. So maybe 6G will be better. Not having scroll antlers or something. So. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving along to probation. Mrs. Galano.
Good evening. On my report, I addressed domestic violence as well. And to piggyback off of Ms. Smith, and to add to what I have put up there, Kelly Davis, our juvenile probation officer, and the core Belvedere police officer Schwartz went out this week and met with the middle schools, North Boone and Belvedere School District, and our high schools. So all 3 schools have been met, 6 schools have been met with, and the goal is to have assembly style presentations presented by Remedies, who is the guru of domestic violence in our area. They are also the people that have the shelter in Rockford. They have joined us with our Family Violence Coordinating Council, along with Tricia's office, and several other stakeholders. So the idea is we'll have the presentation in February for Teen Dating Violence Month, and Remedies will take the lead on that, and we will have other community partners involved at the schools, the Smith's office, the Public Defender's office, the arresting agencies, our office, to have everybody involved for preventative measures and to educate our youth. We also have an opening in my department. We were fully staffed for a brief moment, and now we are down an officer position, the pretrial position, which is going to be most affected come January 1st. We also are collaborating with all departments on how this is going to look for us. So I feel we're in a good spot unless there's major changes. So anybody has any questions?
Any questions in the boardroom? Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving to 7.4, Circuit Clerk. Pam?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to give an update on how our Circuit Clerk 55 fund is going to end for the year. Our office supplies are over budget, and that's due to having to order all new stamps, name stamps, with a change in the circuit clerk. Postage, we're on budget, and payroll, we are under budget due to 3 positions open. Right now, we would like to fill 1 on the traffic side and then reserve the other 2. Not sure how this is going to affect our office, our scheduling in court with the changes that are going to come next year. We will need to replace the computers in our office sooner rather than later. We do have a quote for that. The AOIC is offering funding for court technology. And so we're going to try to get our computers replaced through that, and then some other equipment that we may need up in the courtrooms for this with the clerks. Our union contract in the office is set to expire on November 30th, but to date, we have not started union negotiations yet. And does anybody have any questions?
Any questions in the boardroom? Thank you. We will move to written monthly departmental reports if anybody has anything to add to section 8. If not, we'll move on to new business, where I would need a motion to approve claims. We understand that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by Alderman Charles, Northern Illinois Service Company, and all claims presented from Core and Maine, and all claims submitted by the Boone County Highway Department. Bill Robertson abstains from voting on all claims presented by B. Robertson Lock Service.
A second.
Motion made by Ray Larson.
Second.
Seconded by Brett Mueller. Discussion? Roll call?
Carl Johnson, yes. Dave Wiltsey.
Aye.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Brent Mueller.
Yes.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Tom Walberg.
Yes.
Lisa Patterson.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries.
9.2, I need a motion to move purchase of cloud permit zoning and compliance module forward to the county board for approval.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Brent Mueller, seconded by Ray Larson. Dan, or the vendors on?
Yeah, this is a project for the building department. I know that the vendor, I believe Pete Cloud Permit is on Zoom tonight, so he can give a little more information. But essentially what this does is the department already uses this software for their building permit. So it's essentially an online building permit module. And what the proposal here is would be to implement the same sort of software, which would allow a web-based management for the zoning enforcement side. And so you can see here, there's a memo that Drew prepared. The cost for this would be a one-time $500 implementation fee. And then it would be a 5-year agreement at $3,000 a year, each year for the 5 years. And so again, I believe it's Peter is on the line tonight, and we can turn it over to him if there's any, for a quick presentation and for questions also.
Peter, are you on?
I am. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Drew asked me to pop on and just, provide any questions and asked that I maybe show you guys around the module very quickly, just to give you guys an idea of some of the features that it has. Before I do that, and I'll be very brief, does anyone have any questions about the proposal or the functionality?
Any questions from the boardroom? I see none, Peter.
Okay, great. As I said, I'll be very brief. It's not letting me share anything through the screen, so I don't know if someone can disable that or.
I think they're looking at it right now.
You try now?
All right.
Okay. So again, just to be very brief, this module is going to fit right into the existing cloud permit software the building department's already using for the management and tracking of building permits. The tool is going to allow Drew and his team to track all complaints and convert those to cases, add violations, produce normal templated documents like violation letters, warning letters, citations, things of that manner. So a fairly quick implementation. The tool integrates with the county's existing GIS system. So for all the members, if you would like Drew to shoot you some reports with some maps on them moving forward, it's going to be really easy for him to produce those. The tool is going to give a visual representation, and this is actually the Boone County GIS right here, of where complaints are located within complaints and code enforcement cases are located within the community. The tool is also going to allow basically the management and tracking of all other activities. So it tracks everything that happens as a case is processed, relates complaints to cases, even multiple complaints to a case, which is really helpful. All types of different documents can be added and tracked through the software. And then furthermore, it's going to allow Drew and his team to actually work on site with a mobile device to complete these cases and eliminate a lot of data entry that might otherwise need to happen back at the office. So again, just a very brief kind of glimpse into it. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you. Any questions in the boardroom? See none?
Just a voice vote because it's sending it to the full board for final approval. Just all in favor, yeah.
Any discussion before we go to vote? The motion was made by.
Okay.
Right. All right. That being said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
You as well. Item 9.3, I need a motion to move purchase of duress alarm system, Logan Avenue Administration Campus, in the amount not to exceed $8,917.50 forward with the county board for approval.
So moved.
By Brent Mueller, seconded by Rodney Riley. Discussion. Dave Wiltsey.
Item 6 has a 0.5 instead of a 5. Is that an error, or is it means there is it supposed to be 5 trainings, or is it going to be half a training, or what's the?
It's probably half day.
Half day. Okay. Further questions?
Any other questions in the boardroom? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 9.4, I need a motion to move the proposed 2023 holiday schedule as presented forward to the county board for approval.
So
Motion
moved.
made by Dave Wiltsey, seconded by Bill Robertson. Discussion? Dan? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Did you want?
I just wanted to ask quick, this, it looked to me like this mirrored exactly what we did the last few years, isn't it?
No, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So, and just to, yeah, so the proposed schedule that's in front of you, this is actually, the holiday schedule is included in the personnel policy manual, and then also in the union contracts. And so this mirrors those existing documents. Something that's come up, I think, over the last year or two, and just, I want to bring it to the board for discussion, or just if we want to have that discussion tonight, or something to think about and bring back. But both the 17th Judicial Circuit and then also the Health Department, they've added Juneteenth, the Juneteenth holiday to their holiday list. And so, again, it's just something that's something that was just recently made a federal holiday and a state holiday. And so, again, just wanted to bring that to the board. It is not on the current schedule that's proposed tonight, but it is something that counties and cities and there is a little bit of, we had the issue this year where the 17th Circuit Court had the day off and county didn't. And so typically we really do like to sync up as much as possible with the court. That didn't happen this year. And so there's a little bit of confusion, I know, for the folks in the courthouse. You have some people that are 17th, employees, you have other people that are county employees. And so again, it's just something to, I think for the county board, I wanted to bring up for discussion or consideration.
Anybody want to discuss? Dave Wiltsey.
I don't really favor adding additional holidays to the calendar. This is one that most of us hadn't even heard of 3 years ago. There may be inconveniences with the 17th Circuit and so forth, but I don't particularly see that is something that we should do. And do we have an idea of what it costs to add a holiday to the calendar in terms of the payroll?
It wouldn't be, I'm not sure the exact number. There would be some cost because some departments that don't get not all of our departments get the day off. And so then they would receive holiday pay. For the bulk of the employees, it would really be a lost productivity, not having a day's worth of work. And so, but we probably could estimate between, it would be the sheriff's department that they have people on shift in the jail and the patrol. And then, depending, I guess the highway department probably during snow season, they might work holidays, but they probably wouldn't during this time of year in June. So I think it might just be the sheriff's department. We could get that dollar. We could make it.
And if I may just conclude my thoughts, we've got all these contracts coming up and stuff, and if there's going to be requests for additional holidays, maybe that should come through that process. But I don't stand in favor of this at all.
Any other, Chairman, and then I'll get to you, Rob.
I think looking at this holiday schedule, there's already 12 holidays listed here. I think the general public would not necessarily be excited about us adding a 13th to that list. It's a pretty generous holiday schedule, so I'm not necessarily in favor of adding more.
Mr. Riley?
Not that I'm crazy about adding another holiday either, but I think it's something we're going to need to plan for, because I do believe it's going to only grow in popularity and become a national holiday that we're going to have to eventually adopt, whether we like it or not. So it's something I'll be planning on in the future. I thought.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? It is a federal holiday.
It's a court holiday too.
All right. Are we going to move forward with the proposed without Juneteenth holiday schedule, or do you want to move forward with Juneteenth on there and make it a vote in the county board meeting?
We can always move this forward, and if somebody wants to amend it at the county board, we can do that too.
All right, so we'll move it forward as is, and if at the county board meeting an amendment is needed, then we can vote on it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carries. Item 9.5, the budget. Dan?
All right, so as a follow-up to Tuesday's conversation, the budget is on layover. It's out there for, not only for the public inspection, but also for county board. We can make changes, we can make tweaks. So you heard tonight from both the sheriff and the highway department both talked a little bit about some of the highlights in their budget, which, I think the question was asked on Tuesday night, and I'm glad Justin had highlighted the percentage breakdown of his revenues, because you kind of see that the question was asked about property tax, the levy, and is that the entirety of the revenue for a fund, and you can see on Justin's budget that really the levies are not a small part, but not as a significant portion of the budget. And so that's how really for most of those funds that do levy a property tax, they rely on other revenues as well. As far as tonight goes, I don't have a real in-depth presentation. We do have department heads that are here. I would ask the board if there's something that you want us to look back, or some specific items that we can talk about. We can talk about that tonight. If we want to hear from some of the department heads that are here to talk about their budget, to review those, we can do that. I guess I would defer to the chair and also the board chair.
Go ahead, Chairman.
I've got just a couple of questions if I could.
Sure.
Just looking at the revenue sheets on page 2, under other taxes, we've got the late taxes and tax sale fees. And just curious, I know we had 162,000 budgeted for one and 16,000 budgeted for the other respectively. There's nothing that's been collected so far. Is that just we haven't gotten that revenue yet? Because I see we budgeted for next year for this.
Yeah, those actually, so that FY 2022 actual column is through August. And so I believe if I ran it today, they might be in there.
Okay.
But the penalty on the late taxes and the tax sale fees, those typically hit late in the year.
Okay.
I think the tax sale is later this month. And so, is that right? No. It already happened. That's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. It just happened. So then I think in probably in November at some point, we'll see
those revenues.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that might be the case, but I just wanted to make sure. Then on page 4, for other revenues, we've got rent for Maple Crest Care Center. We've got 164,000 budgeted for 2023, but we're presumably selling that. Do you think we should pull that out of that value?
Yeah, and that we do plan on, so we do have an update related to that sale that we need to, it would be a closed session item with the board.
Okay.
And we're planning on that next week.
Okay.
That being said, I can give you just my thought process. It hasn't, that sale hasn't closed yet.
Okay.
And so going back and forth between, pulling it out, either way, if the deal closes, we won't receive that rent anymore. So right now, without that having been done yet, I left it status quo. But we, like I said, we will have an update for the board on that, hopefully next week in closed session.
Okay.
But that was my thought process.
I thought that might be the reasoning. Another one here, just on page 14, under county buildings, under utilities, we've got a pretty significant increase in the utilities, about 34,000. About 30,000. But I see 2021 was at 140,000, 2022 was at 110,000 roughly. And then we're back up to budgeting 140. Just, are we seeing a trend that it's coming back up again and it did go down or?
Yeah, what I did with these, and I can look at them, it makes me a little bit worried that the 2023 number is lower than the 21 actuals. But what I did was I took the current year actuals and did a monthly average on those and tried to project those out the best I could. Our utility costs, and I mentioned it, my dates are mixed up, but I think it was at the October meeting when we went through the natural gas renewals for some of the county facilities. We will see some big increases just with what's happening right now with natural gas per therm rate. It's gone up almost, or actually more than 300% since 2020. So that'll be an increase. So yeah, again, that it was a monthly average. I'll look at it again and kind of make sure that I'm comfortable with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got one last thing just to comment. I just did some quick numbers just for the board's knowledge. You know, we talk about so much how much the sheriff's department and that all those types of facilities make up our budget. And just some quick figures, it's about $11 million between the courts, state's attorney, sheriff's, corrections, and those, you know, I would consider them all part of public safety sort of aspects. That's how much of our budget is just, it's there and we don't have a lot of choice. It's just got to be spent no matter what. So just for reference, so you understand how big that portion of our budget really is.
Any questions or comments or discussion? Question for department heads. Mr. Chairman?
I'd have one for the state's attorney. Oh, there she is. I'm like, where'd she go? Just, you've got that new position that you're looking to fill. I know in the past the state's attorney's office has been able to get grants to help pay for those positions. I don't know if that's a possibility to at all or not.
Not that I'm aware of for this type of position. And for everyone's information, it is mostly related to FOIA. And we've seen a big increase in requests throughout Boone County. And so what this person would do would be coordinating all those responses so that we would be following the law, being timely, and sending out appropriate material. And right now it's just kind of spread out through all the different departments. Is it being answered as it should? And we just, you know, obviously this is an area that could, you know, bring potential jeopardy to the county. We just want to make sure that we need to be transparent with the public. We need to get quick responses, and they need to be appropriate responses. We were just guessing that on the time that it would take for that person, it might be, you know, potentially that person might be 40 hours. I just don't know, and it's going to obviously fluctuate with the requests that come in. I did talk with, I think every single department had an elected official, and they are very supportive of this because they don't feel comfortable handling those matters. And I just know the sheriff's department, they ended up hiring someone and it turned out into a full-time position. And we wouldn't even be handling those, we'd be assisting right now and give legal advice on questions that she may have. So, sorry, I kind of went off.
No, that's okay.
But I just wanted to explain that that's what the position entailed for, maybe there's a couple people who weren't here.
I can add to that too, and just to give the board an idea. So the requests really do come in waves, and so it just kind of depends on what's going on. To echo the state's attorney, it could be 40 hours for a period. It might be 10 or 15, 20, but I think there's enough work in that office to then supplement the other time. And one of the things that we've talked about internally as well with this new position would be a lot of cities and counties have implemented a software, like a FOIA tracking software. And so it's something that we would probably defer to the new person. It'd be something that they would manage, but it really helps to streamline the process. You can request things through a portal, almost like very similar to kind of the cloud permit system, but you can request it through an online portal. It sends automated responses. It tracks, you know, it can route work to different staff members. And so that's something that just to kind of prep that a little bit, we might be looking at that maybe once this person's hired next year, or also maybe the next budget cycle, but some sort of a FOIA tracking software.
Dave Wolfstein?
Yeah, I noticed when we were looking at the cloud permit, one of the things it talked about in the fourth bullet was reduced staff time applying to FOIA requests. And I understand sensitivity in the state's attorney's office or something, those FOIAs would have to be redacted or so forth. But is there any ability to piggyback on whatever that software is, or are they totally dissimilar?
I think the benefit with having a software like that is that it makes for the department that's still going to be providing the responsive records. When you have a software such as Cloud Permit or a payroll software, it makes it that much easier to actually just pull out reports.
Okay.
As opposed to if you're doing it, the old way, you having to go through files, prepare it that way. So I think, but definitely any new system, we'll look at them and see if they sync at all with our existing programs that we use.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Yes, we will be moving this.
I'm not sure there's an action. It's already on layover. And so we'll have this again on the finance agenda item next week. And then ultimately the approval would have to come at the November board meeting, or if we did a special board meeting for some reason, if we do need more time. Yeah.
I would just encourage board members to continue to review the budget, review the revenues. If you have questions, contact that department, contact Mr. Street, discuss things. Once again, just so everybody knows, the budget can still be changed, adjusted at the final board meeting. Even next week, we can discuss changes. If there's something somebody says, man, I think we should do this, or can we do something about this? There's plenty of time to do that. So even at the final board meeting and the end of this month, we can still make amendments and changes to that budget as we move along. So just continue to encourage you to review it, look at it, and any questions, please call or ask administration.
Go ahead, Tricia.
Question. If there are no more questions for like department heads that are here this evening, I think they're probably wondering if they need to come back next Thursday to finance. I think everyone plans on being here at the full budget meeting, but I just know that would be probably a question from the audience that's left here.
Go ahead.
I think that if they'd like to come join us next week, you're more than welcome. But I don't think it's necessary. And I will emphasize that it's always been my policy that if perchance we decide, probation needs a 50% cut in their entire budget, we're not going to make that cut until we let probation know and give them a chance to come and talk. So sorry, Amy, I had to pick on somebody. But so that's always been my policy, that we're not going to just cut a department without giving them a chance to hear what we're thinking about doing and give them a chance to spend that budget, so to speak. So I don't think it's necessary that you're here. It seems to me, everything I've been through the budget so far, it's pretty straightforward, pretty, even with last year, pretty status quo budget. So I think it's a real good job. And once again, I commend our departments and our elected officials for continuing to do more and more and more with less or the same amount. So thank you for all your hard work that you guys do. It means a lot to me, I can tell you that. And I'd put our entire staff up against any county or city in Illinois or anywhere, because I think they do a fantastic job. So thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move forward to raffles. I have signed 3. They're on the chairman's desk to finalize.
Street has
They're on admin's desk. They're already signed. Oh, they all should be good. Moving forward to landfill. I don't think we have anything there. Correspondence, Dan, you guys have a couple.
A couple quick things. The county board, all the county board members, I'm not sure if you guys already got this, but we received an invitation for all of you for the VA, the Veterans Day activities, or the VFW, the Veterans Day activities, which would be next Friday, November 11th The program will take place at the VFW, 1310 West Lincoln Avenue, and it starts at 10 a.m. And so just wanted to bring that to your attention tonight. The second thing, we typically just bring these because we get them here in our office. We received this notice about a change from the EPA dealing with the General Mills facility, the existing facility at 915 Pleasant Street. And so they asked for comment, or public comment or notice from the county. And so we just always want to bring those here and put that out there. I don't believe that there would be a reason for the county to comment, but again, we want to share that with the board. The third item that I have that I don't have an attachment up here on board docs, but we did receive notice from William Charles that I believe they've actually begun blasting at that State Street quarry right on the county line with Boone and Winnebago. So between Show Place 16 and Shaw Road. So again, just if anyone's hearing anything, if people are wondering, if you hear out there, people wondering what's going on, that's the reason they've begun blasting and doing their operations with that quarry. So just keep that in mind.
That quarry is all in Winnebago, correct?
But there's the eastern sliver of it is actually in Boone. I'm not sure where they're operating right now, if it's in Boone or Winnebago. It's kind of a weird thing, but if you look at the aerial of it, there is
just a small sliver.
There's a portion of that quarry that's in Boone County. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan. We'll move forward to advocacy groups, UCCI. I don't think you had anything. No executive session, so just one last, sorry. Ray Larson.
I was just wondering here, if we could go back to the General Mills thing there, this is a renewal permit or anything. It doesn't really say what a federally enforceable state operating permit is.
Yeah.
So we basically have no idea what this is. I haven't, I just looked at this, so wasn't able to look it up. I just don't know what it is. What's it for? Did they have one before and this is I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it does say here, it says, prior to issuance, the draft will undergo a public notice and comment period. And when that public notice and comment period begins, they'll make available the materials, including a draft permit and project summary at this website. So what we can do is we can just, we can check that and then, we can look at that. And
it'd just be nice to know what it actually is.
Yeah. This initial notice doesn't really give us much information.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Before we adjourn, I would need one motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Dave Wiltsey.
Second.
Seconded by Freddie Dale Trinidad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We adjourned at 7:25 p.m.